Before the video starts, I try to achieve a weighted balance in my videos by pointing out the observational pessimism, but providing some actionable optimism and ideological reasonability. But I want to warn you that this video is by far my most cynical. I realized after finishing my script that this video has no real takeaway message other than a sobering view of the world, so I want to just front load the video with a purpose. What I want you to take away is that the various parts of our lives come with different challenges and vary tremendously between each of us. Others will view you however they perceive the world, but that does not determine your actual value to the world. No matter what age you are someone worth connection, you have so much to say, and most importantly, you deserve love. Don't let this world make you feel like an other. You are human. You are worth it. The rest of this video will be my perspective on how I see 26 to 29 years old, and I do warn you, it is very negative. If you want to click off, no worries. Thank you for staying this long. Be safe. 26 to 29 is one of the weirdest ages of your life. Well, your 20s are in general, even more so in your late 20s. How people view you. You're no longer a kid, and no one considers you a kid. You're not a man or woman yet, but you're not quite a child either. Someone younger is thinking, that's definitely an adult, or even if they don't feel like an adult, you're definitely old. And an older person says, that's no adult. Maybe a young man or woman, but they're definitely young. These two opposing views define you to others when you don't know how to exist in the world without being ascribed notions and characteristics that you're supposed to be. If you're 26 to 27, you are becoming that adult that you're expected to be, but you're not quite there yet. Well, are you actually old? You might not feel like it because older people don't take you seriously in any way. You still have the 20 half of your age. You're not exactly experienced in any position, so jobs aren't taking you seriously as a professional, leaving you with a chip on your shoulder to prove your capability, and adults still look at you like you don't even have an ounce of sense, and you still have nothing useful to say. You barely have any life skills, and couldn't help someone with a mortgage if they needed financial help. The majority of people couldn't offer someone advice on interest rates, stock trading choices, banking options, financial advice, and serious life advice, let alone someone under the age of 30. At best, 30-somethings view you as an older, incompetent young person. Sure, you're not exactly the most experienced person or have exclusive knowledge no one has ever heard before, but instead you have a fresh perspective and take that might actually help someone, but instead you are dismissed because you're not an expert in anything. Connection. Connection, I would argue, is the most important part of the human experience. Your time on this earth means nothing if you have no one to share it with. Think about the countless lives that have come and gone before we have even existed. The multitude of human names that we will never know because we have never met them. The average human meets an estimate of 50,000 to 100,000 people over their entire lifetime. This means when you work a retail job, those people who came and went are part of that. Of the total number of people you will ever meet, you will probably share a conversation with about 2,000 of them, and maybe intimately know another 500. And of those 500, the average adult has around 5 people who they are actually close to in their life, meaning the majority of your existence doesn't even have awareness of the 8 billion that exist as you are alive now. Think about that in the macro. There have been countless billions that have existed before our own current lifetime, and we don't even have a clue of how they lived or even what their names were. Just human lives that came and went. I take this macro view to point out something important. In our own lifetime, we barely connect to people, and the age of 26 to 29 is especially weird because you connect to about a 3-year age range before the differences become innumerable to even try to connect. At 26, 22-year-olds view you like an older brother or sister that is a stick in the mud compared to the average 20-something-year-old. 30-year-olds view you as a kid not anywhere in life they would want to associate with. At 29, a 22-year-old views you like a relic belonging to an ancient Egyptian tomb, while 30-year-olds still look at you like you're some amateur that doesn't get what it's like to be 30 yet. It's such a weird time because no one understands you, and you still don't have any authority to be listened to yet. I'll reiterate, 26 to 29 isn't exactly old or young. You don't fit in with 30-year-olds, as the age suggests. They're in their 30s. So while you're old enough to understand the cultural references because a lot of them are your older siblings or older kids you grew up with, you're not quite old enough to garner any respect or even recognition because your awareness within their cultural upbringing was always the kid looking on or not considered part of the group. Meanwhile, younger 20s do not view you the same either. You're a bit beyond their cultural references, not really interested in using the early 20s slang, as you would be seen as a fraud anyway, and you also started to mature to not really need to use it as a way of fitting in. You would seem like the 21-year-old that hangs out with high schoolers trying to still wear a backwards cap as the bald spots start to show themselves. At best, you yourself take on the older brother or sister archetype offering advice or guidance to a young 21-year-old. Or worse, you're an old fart looking to fit in when you should be applying to get your Medicaid, old man. What I'm getting at is that the age gap between yourself and anyone outside of the 26 to 29 year age range becomes a critical point of contention for connection, where if you're not aligned in practically the same upbringing, your age difference will really show itself to be a difference maker within that potential bond. This is practically why most individuals complain about making friends at about 25 plus, because the only places to find individuals such as yourself become work or the old friend groups you shared, if you had any, making your social mobility impeded dramatically. Let's just say what it is: social isolation. Your age as an idea. If you're 20 or so, you'll soon be in your late 20s, within the next 5-ish years. Understand that this weird age range will hit you as well. You are no longer a child. You no longer offer the same intrinsic value you once did as a kid. This next part is a super subjective take based on the multitude of conversations between women I have spoken to and interviewed, as they often wax poetic about love not really existing after a fresh breakup, or even when they are looking for what they deem to be a serious relationship. I do not claim to have extensive knowledge on the female experience in any way, shape, or form. As the 26 to 29-year-old woman, you are, in a societal sense, less sexually attractive than you once were, leading to interest and attention, while not absent, starting to fade as you're no longer once desirable as you were as a young 20-something-year-old. You are more likely to be looking for a serious long-term relationship, and young men see you as an easy mark to sleep with. Older guys see you as an immature girl meant to be used for fun, unless you somehow are more appealing past the way you look. This superficial view of women plagues them their entire life, but as an older 20-year-old, you are now hitting a wall of social navigation that you were previously unaware of. As a young man, congratulations. No one, and I mean no one outside of your immediate family, cares about you. Girls' first question to you is, what do you do for a living? As a determinative factor of your worth. You are a workhorse, undesirable to anyone unless you provide monetary value to people. And if you happen to be one of these 24-year-old crypto millionaires, then congratulations. Women are now open to listening to what you have to say. But if you're not, welcome to the ghost town that is to be a 27-year-old guy with basic income. Guys, on the other hand, see you as competition for female attention, and thus your existence is meaningless other than to be defeated in social combat. I hope to God you have found your self-worth, as no one will validate your experiences in any way. Do you have feelings? Man up. Men will look at you and pull out their encyclopedia of knowledge on the various coping mechanisms used to ignore our feelings, and women will just see you as, well, immature if you talk about your feelings to them. A man takes care of his responsibilities. A boy sits there and cries.
Vulnerability coming from a place of strength as opposed to from a place of weakness. Men need to accumulate sufficient man points before they can open up about their feelings. Basically feels like men have to earn the right to talk about their emotions. Chris Bumstead, as an example, can talk about crying and fear and insecurities, but only because he's the greatest bodybuilder of his era and a 6-time champion. Only men who have achieved some degree of success in typical masculine pursuits like status, resources, attractiveness, muscularity, and strength can open up about emotions with credibility. And once they've accumulated sufficient man points, some unspoken video game level unlock happens where emotions are allowed, but opening up before having the requisite man points is interpreted as feeble and weak. I think the world still has many icks around men showing their emotions, but far fewer if it comes from a place of prestige than one of poverty. It's a vicious sort of scenario for men to be in, because the very men who probably could do with the most sympathy are perhaps the ones who have got the lowest number of man points. And they're the ones that are going to be derogated the most by women, and also maybe even not raised up that much by men.
I can go on endlessly about this age's struggles, but I will end on this. 26 to 29 is by far the weirdest age in your entire life for both men and women, where your identity is determined by how others view you. You as a person don't matter really, just your value to others. The world will say, "Welcome to adulthood." As you stand there awkwardly, not understanding what you're supposed to be like, people will walk by you so quickly that you cannot even recognize any of their faces. Are you feeling puzzled? Confused? Do you feel alienated from everyone else? Who asked? Get to work.